it's Michael again with the continuing story of Charles Siskin and the 1,000 Natural Shocks by me. And moving on. And in this corner, Chapter 3. St. Ignatius Loyola is an all-boys Catholic military high school founded by the Jesuits in 1907. The school is located on the edge of the downtown area in a building that was erected in 1932. It has broad steps leading up to the front of an impressive facade. Footnote, facade. Facade. Noun. 1. In architecture, the front or face of a building, especially one given special treatment. 2. A fake, shallow, or superficial appearance. It suddenly strikes me as kind of interesting that I'm using this word to describe the front of the school building when I could just as easily use it to describe how I've lived my life from one day to the next, doing my best to keep up the illusion that everything is okay. It has broad steps leading up to the front of an impressive facade that looms over the boulevard that it faces. Enrollment is about 800 students. Located directly across the street is an all-girls Catholic school called St. Cecilia's, founded by an order of Dominican nuns. Later I would find out that students regularly crossed the street to attend classes at the other school, so neither school was really all boys or all girls. I had great expectations for Loyola. They were really misguided expectations, but they were great. You see, everything I had learned about private schools I got from stuff I read. The Catcher in the Rye, A Separate Peace, so much unfairness of things. To say that I had romanticized what would be my experience at Loyola would be a huge understatement. In my head, I had pictures of handsome boys wearing blazers and ties that bore the school colors, their hair combed neatly in a 50s wiffle. On the grounds surrounding the school, there would be teams of fit young men sitting under trees reading books in Latin. So to be fair, Loyola didn't stand a chance when held up to this ridiculous standard. But still, it didn't have to disappoint me so completely. I walked into Loyola as a full-fledged student on Tuesday, September 4th, 1979. Monday was Labor Day. Freshmen were called in a day earlier than the rest of the student body for orientation day. The school had wide halls, stone floors, and dark wood paneling that was polished to a high gloss and extended from the floors to halfway up the walls. I was wearing black slacks, a starched light blue button-down shirt, and a tie I found that not so coincidentally displayed the school colors, navy and silver. The school had a dress code. No jeans, no sneakers, no shirts without collars. I carried a brand new leather satchel, a gift from Sammy, a strap across my chest filled with a Trapper Keeper, pens, black, blue, and red, pencils, number 2, a ruler, a protractor, a compass, a calculator, a pocket dictionary, and my well-worn copy of William Faulkner's The Sound and the Fury. Clearly, I was ready for anything. I followed my schedule to room 312, up on the 3rd floor. This was to be my homeroom and my English class, led by someone with the last name of Hawley. I walked into a classroom unlike any I had seen before. The ceilings were at least 12 feet tall. One wall was all windows from waist height all the way up to the ceiling, framed and silled in dark wood, worn down from years of use. There were ceiling fans since there was no central air, and all the windows were open. Even though it was September, August hadn't quite let go, and it was at least 90 degrees in the room. The teacher's desk was directly ahead of me as I stepped through the door. Behind the desk stood a really odd-looking man. He was tall, at least 6 feet, and probably weighed no more than 150 after a good meal. His skin was pale and smooth like the belly of a fish. He wore horn-rimmed glasses with thick lenses that made his eyes appear to bulge like 2 poached eggs. He had dark hair, worn short, and parted on the side, but the top had a flip in it, like that little elf who wants to be a dentist on the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer Christmas special. And he wore a black suit that hung on his lanky frame like a scarecrow's, a white shirt, and a narrow black tie. This, I discovered, was the uniform of the religious order of brothers that ran the school. As I came through the door, he looked me up and down, and then he spoke, addressing me in a voice that sounded suspiciously like Kermit the Frog's. This made everything he said sound unintentionally dry and comical. I think it's really important that you get the sound of this bizarre voice, so from now on, whenever he speaks, I'm going to use italics. Come in. I blurted out a laugh that was sure that the voice must be a joke. Something funny? He said, frowning slightly. No, of course not. I'm sorry, I said, stepping towards him. You must be, he asked, his eyes bulging out farther. Charles Siskin, are you Mr. Hawley? You won't find many misters here on the faculty, he said. Here at Loyola, we are all brothers. I believe I know you, Mr. Siskin. You may call me Brother Marvin. Oh, of course, I'm sorry, sir, but Brother Marvin. Have a seat, Charles. Third row, fourth seat back, he said, after briefly consulting his list and his seating chart. Here already was a man I could appreciate. He had a seating chart. My kind of guy. I'm still not sure to this day, but I think he smiled to himself a little as I turned to take my seat. As I walked up the row, I noticed that there was a boy already seated directly in front of my desk. He was small and had feminine features, light hair and glasses that were about 3 sizes too big for his face. As I walked up the row, I caught him looking at me, and he quickly looked away. I sat down at my desk. Hi, my name's Charles, I said to the back of the boy's head. After a full minute, he turned around toward me. He couldn't quite seem to meet my eyes. When he spoke, his voice was very high and girlish. What was it about this school and weird voices? Hi, he said. I'm Stuart. I beg your pardon? My name is Stuart Simpson. The poor boy lisped, and he had 3 S's in his name, Stuart Simpson. Hi, Stuart, I said, extending my hand. Stuart placed his limp fish of a hand in mine and shook it weakly. All right, gentlemen, please take your seats. The other boys in the class sat down and looked expectantly up at Brother Marvin. Brother Marvin cleared his throat and began passing out mimeographed pieces of paper. Take one of each of these sheets and pass back the rest, please. The handouts consisted of school policies, a school calendar, and such. Brother Marvin had an unsettling way of not actually looking at anyone when he was speaking, almost as if he was addressing a group of people slightly to the right and above of where we were all sitting. Seriously, Stuart said, turning to pass the papers back to me, that Brother Marvin has the weirdest voice I've ever heard. I took the papers and looked at him. Due to alphabetizing, Stuart and I not only sat one behind the other, but we were assigned lockers right next to each other. I was actually kind of relieved. While he was a bit strange, he was definitely not threatening, and he was quiet, which I liked. He didn't seem compelled to make small talk. And when homeroom was over and we were instructed to head to the gym for some kind of freshman general meeting, he very naturally walked with me, quiet and looking around at the other boys. In the gym, he sat next to me. It seemed I had made my first friend at Loyola. As we sat in the gym, I looked around at the other boys in my new school. They seemed older than me somehow. It was clear that a couple of the boys actually shaved. I scanned the crowd for any temptingly handsome faces. There were probably about 100 of us in the gym, and already I had spotted a good 5 or 6 young men that were what I would consider to be good-looking. Author's note. Now, at this point, it occurs to me that you might be thinking that the only real reason I had for wanting to change schools was so that I could be in an all-boy environment, and I won't lie to you, the idea didn't stink. Okay, if I am being totally honest, it was there, in the back of my mind, as a perquisite Footnote. Perquisite. Perquisite. Noun. 1. A benefit, payment or privilege, incidental to regular payment, incomes, or wages. As a perquisite, he received season tickets to the opera and had use of the company jet. 2. Gratuity or tip. 3. That which is claimed as an exclusive right or possession. The Duke considered a perquisite to receive the best of the new spring lambs. Once, at a McDonald's, I saved a kid from choking on a toy from his Happy Meal. Learning first aid in military class was an unforeseen perquisite of attending SILHS. Okay, if I'm being totally honest, it was there in the back of my mind as a perquisite of being a student at Loyola. Or maybe it was closer to the front of my mind. But in all honesty, my primary reasons were, first, to get away from the Neanderthals at public school, and second, to get the best education I could. Being surrounded by cute boys was merely a perquisite. As my eyes studied the crowd, I noticed that the buzz and chatter had begun to die down. I looked up at the stage and saw that a brother had walked to the podium and was standing looking over the crowd, willing us to be quiet. Yet stern eyes and face. Amazingly enough, it was working. The gym suddenly fell silent and all eyes were on him. Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Brother Baker, and I am the Dean of Students here at St. Ignatius Loyola High School. On behalf of the faculty and staff, I would like to welcome you, the members of the class of 1983. The boys erupted in applause, which seemed to irritate Brother Baker instead of please him. He waited patiently for the applause to die down, nothing even closely resembling a smile ever touching his lips. St. Ignatius Loyola is regarded as the best secondary school in this city. That is not pride or bragging, but fact. We possess a spotless academic record, with nearly 100% of our students going on to higher education. Many of you will proceed to the best colleges and universities in the country. As such, we have an extremely high expectation for the young men who attend this school. You have already proved yourselves remarkable by passing an extremely rigorous entrance exam, but you will find that we will ask you to prove yourselves over and over again on a daily basis. We expect you to excel here among the best and brightest in academics, sports, military, the arts. This is not a place to be if you are not academically minded. Should there be any of you who choose to stand out for the wrong reasons, you will find yourself in my office. We ask nothing less of you than excellence. In return, you will carry the name of St. Ignatius Loyola with you wherever you go. It is a name that will open doors for you. Make sure that you do nothing to tarnish the name. Welcome, gentlemen. I hope you have an outstanding year. Brother Baker left the stage miraculously to no applause. What an asshole, said Stuart. After the orientation meeting, we returned to homeroom. Stuart seemed to have come out of his shell since the whole Brother Baker speech and began talking nonstop about all kinds of things, the school, the dress code, his dog, what we might have for lunch, when the girls were going to show up. Even, oddly, that he had just found out recently that raisins came from grapes, and on and on and on. We came back to homeroom and sat down. For the remainder of the day, you will go to all your classes, although the periods will be shortened because of the assembly this morning. Before you go on to your first period class, make sure that you have checked and memorized the combination to your locker. Enjoy your first day at Loyola, gentlemen. Mr. Siskin, may I see you for a moment? Yes, brother. I walked up to his desk. You will see on your schedule that you have English first period. I am a teacher for that class. However, the class will not meet today. Take a study hall for period 1, and I will see you in homeroom in period 1 tomorrow. Yes, sir, but I will see you tomorrow, Charles. I walked out into the hall and stood for a moment, puzzled. Stuart stood at his open locker. As I walked up, he tossed a single book in and slammed the locker door shut. See you later, he said as he walked down the hall. Maybe we can sit together at lunch. He continued down the hall without waiting for a reply. I turned to my locker and tried the combination. No luck. A second time. No luck. I noticed that the boy who had been sitting behind me came up to his locker. He had the unlikely name of Alejandro Taylor. He was at least 6 feet 3 inches tall and slim, with a narrow nose and face. He already had 5 o'clock shadow at 10 in the morning. He opened his locker with no problem. Hey, listen, I said, do you think you could help me with my locker? I can't seem to open it. My name is Charles, by the way. I don't have time to mess with you, pansy, he said, his voice dripping with contempt. Why don't you ask your little girlfriend? He shut his locker and stalked off down the hall. And with that one moment, my dreams of Loyola as my salvation were crushed like a bug under someone's shoe. Whatever curse I carried had followed me here, and it had taken only a few hours for the boys in this new school to sniff me out as something odd and out of place. How could this be? How could this place be no different than the hell I had left behind? It was as if I had come into the school, skipping down the halls and wearing a pink tutu. Was it really so obvious? And with these questions came a horrifying thought. I had jumped out of the proverbial frying pan and into the fire. Somehow I had believed that the best place for me to be was an all-boys Catholic military high school. The realization of what a colossal mistake I had just made came rolling over me like a Mack truck. It was pretty clear. I was dead meat.